In the middle of the launch event for a famous cosmetics company, the sound of camera flashes was like a storm. 32-year-old Taidy stood elegantly in the center of the stage. People, friends, influencers, and investors raised their champagne glasses to her. A woman who built herself from nothing. Female icon of the year. Taidy smiled, accepting the compliments as if she were addicted to them. Reporter: "How do you feel about your success today, Miss Taidy?" Taidy: "I just don't want to go back to being poor again." But in a small corner of the event, an ordinary man in a faded shirt, holding a plastic lunchbox, stood awkwardly alone. He was T, her older brother, a former air conditioner repairman who now runs a small curry rice shop next to a bus stop. The man who used to work hard to send his siblings to school. The man who once went without food so his siblings could buy books. "Have you eaten anything yet?" he asked softly. Taidy glanced at the lunchbox in his hand before quickly turning to smile at the cameras. "Brother, there are so many reporters today." But today, Taidy was afraid that others would find out that she had a poor brother like him. Sometimes, when people are too high up, we often don't see the people who once lifted us up.
T was silent for a moment. "I'm just afraid you won't get to eat." The young woman sighed. "You should go home. People might think you're a delivery boy." T: Some words aren't spoken aloud, yet they hurt deeper than a shout. T stood still for a moment, before nodding slightly. He wasn't angry, he wasn't arguing. There was only the weary gaze of someone trying to love someone without expecting love in return. The event was still filled with laughter, but a man was walking away silently, with an unopened lunchbox. In a world where people admire success, hardly anyone sees the hearts of ordinary people anymore. The rain started to fall harder and harder. T walked home alone, his shoes so worn they could barely support his weight, but he still clutched his lunchbox tightly. No one at the party turned to look at him anymore, except for an old housekeeper who stood watching his back with pity. She murmured, "Some poor people have more dignity than some rich people." T: Perhaps the most valuable people in life may not be the ones standing in the spotlight, but perhaps they are the ones who still walk back to us, no matter how many times we push them out of our lives. Taidy's life is full of people. Investors, people who take her out, people who call her family. Friends, you are the luckiest person in the world. Investors, anyone who gets to work with you has already won half the battle. Taidy, we're family. Every night is filled with laughter and glasses of expensive wine. She begins to believe that she is important. She begins to believe that these people truly love her. But in the adult world, sometimes the word friend is just a temporary promise secured by money. And no one notices that amidst all the people, no one asks her, "Are you tired?" Everything collapsed overnight. One day, her assistant rushed into the conference room. "Taidy, the company is being sued." The entire room fell silent. The company was being sued. A key partner had absconded with the money, and the products were exposed for containing excessive amounts of chemicals, all things she knew nothing about. And the scandal spread across the online world. People began attacking her like hungry animals. Those who used to offer her drinks began to disappear. Some posted eloquent quotes like, "We must choose to associate with positive people," even though just moments before, they were enjoying free food and wine at her house. The reputation she had built over years crumbled faster than wet paper. Taidy finally understood that the world that loved her when she was successful might not have loved her for who she truly was. That night, the luxurious room was so quiet, you could hear your own breathing. Taidy sat looking at the phone's contact list, one name at a time. Taidy, answer the phone. Why is no one here? But no one answered. Not a single person. Who wanted to be by her side on a day when there was nothing left to gain from them? Before her gaze settled on one name, PT. She froze for a long time. Her heart wanted to call, but her pride held her back. Sometimes, loneliness isn't the scariest thing. What's scarier is knowing that you once pushed the person who loved you most out of your life yourself. 3 days after the company collapsed, Taidy's phone gradually went silent until she started hearing the creaking of the old refrigerator in the room. Every notification that popped up was filled with insults. Serves you right. Rich, quick to get rich, quickly to ruin. This kind of woman is an example of greed. There were no messages of encouragement, only laughter, mockery, and judgment from people who never truly knew her. She immediately turned off the screen. The penthouse, once full of people, now contained only empty wine glasses. Taidy looked at the designer handbags, luxury shoes, and expensive watches that once made people envious. But nothing could buy back genuine people. Sometimes, the most expensive things in life can be the most worthless on the day we fall. Suddenly, all the lights in the room went out. Silence slowly engulfed everything. And for the first time in her life, Taidy felt as if the whole world had truly stopped caring about her. But in the darkest of nights, there was a knock on the door. Knock, knock, knock. She didn't answer. The knocking sounded again. Taidy, open the door. She froze. T's voice. When she opened the door, she saw her brother standing in the rain, his old shirt soaked and clinging to his body. In his hand, he held a bag of hot rice. Was the power cut? Taidy pursed her lips tightly. Why are you here? T walked in silently before placing the bag of rice on the table. Have you eaten anything yet? There were no harsh words, no lectures, just a simple question. Have you eaten anything yet? Sometimes, people who truly love us don't need to be talkative. They just still come to us, even when everyone else has left.
The young woman began to get irritated. Why are you suddenly acting like a good person now? Thur was silent. She continued to shout as if drowning. When I was rich, everyone loved me. Now there's no one left. Are you happy now? Thur looked at his sister with weary eyes. I never wanted you to fall apart. But I guess I'm glad. Taidy. Because you warned me, didn't you? That you shouldn't trust people easily? That money changes people. Thur sighed softly. I'm not sad that you used to be rich. He paused for a moment. I'm sad. When you had money, you weren't happy at all. Thur's words immediately silenced Taidy. She just realized that all this time, she had been chasing success until she forgot to ask her own heart if it was tired. The tears she had held back for so long slowly flowed out. This time, there were no flashes from reporters, no fake friends to comfort her. There was only the rough hand of her brother still stroking her head, like when she was a child. On the day everything went dark, Taidy finally saw that there was still one person who never turned off the lights waiting for her, not even once. T's rented house was at the end of a narrow alley. The roof leaked, the fan was old, and a stray dog slept under a broken car in front of the house. Taidy stood staring at the house with an empty gaze. She had once spent more on a single handbag than on a year's rent for this house. But tonight,
this small house was the only place still waiting for her. Sometimes the warmest place may not be the most luxurious place, but perhaps it's where someone still wants us to be. On her first night in the small house, Taidy couldn't sleep at all. The weather was hot, the sound of cars drove by all night, and mosquitoes buzzed around incessantly. At 4 a.m, she heard T get up to cook. But what made her freeze was the sight of her brother eating plain rice with fish sauce. She froze. "Aren't you going to eat with the rice?" T was slightly startled before smiling. "I'm full." When she opened the pot of curry, she found that there was nothing left, because he had saved all the food for her. Taidy finally understood that all these years, while she ate luxurious meals in a high-rise building, there was an ordinary man who was willing to go without so that his sister wouldn't suffer. A certain love isn't spoken of in words, but it's hidden in ordinary meals that someone chooses to forego.
One morning, Taidy was helping her brother sell rice, but the eyes of the people around her were filled with contempt. She saw one customer say loudly, "Oh, so that's the owner of a famous brand? Down on his luck, selling rice now?" Some people laughed. Some took out their phones to film. Taidy felt so ashamed she wanted to run away. But T responded calmly. "Selling rice doesn't mean you're low class." The customer sneered. "But it's funny how a rich person can fall into poverty." T slowly put down the ladle. Those who laugh when others fall, one day no one will reach out to them when they fall. There was no anger, no shouting, just simple words that instantly silenced the entire shop. The customer walked away immediately. That day, Taidy began to understand that a person's dignity isn't measured by luxury cars, expensive watches, or the amount of money in their bank account. But rather, no matter how difficult life is, it's about how we treat others with kindness. One night, Taidy sneaked back into the old office. The place that was once filled with laughter was now shrouded in silence. The entire floor was pitch black, illuminated only by the pale emergency lights. She slowly opened each file, her heart sinking. Forged signatures, money transfer documents, leaked customer data before the product launch. Everything pointed to Mintra, her best friend, the one she started a business with. Taidy recalled the nights they sat crying together, hugging each other when they had nothing. That day, Mintra had said, "If you get rich, I'll get rich too." Taidy laughed through her tears. Actually, that sentence was too true. Back then, it sounded like friendship. But today, it sounded like a warning she never understood. The sound of high heels echoed from the end of the hallway, and the person Taidy least wanted to see appeared. Mintra was still beautiful, calm, and seemed completely unrepentant. "Mintra, still investigating?" Taidy looked at her with trembling eyes. "Why?" Mintra smiled faintly. "Because I'm tired of being a supporting character." "Taidy, I trusted you." "Trusted?" Mintra laughed. "But have you ever really seen me?" Her words gradually revealed a long-hidden truth. All this time, everyone only saw the successful Taidy, but no one cared about the person standing behind her. Some jealousy doesn't stem from hatred, but it comes from the feeling that one will never be important enough in anyone's eyes. The entire room was filled with a chilling silence. When you succeed, everyone applauds you, but I have to stand behind you, smiling. "So you destroyed everything?" Mintra replied calmly. "There's no such thing as brotherhood in the business world." Taidy retorted immediately. "That's because you never had it." For the first time, Mintra fell silent.
before walking away without looking back. Taidy stood amidst the crumbling office. But this time, she wasn't hurting from the loss of money. She was hurting because she had just understood that some people don't envy our success. They envy seeing that we still have someone who loves us, still have a home to return to, still have people ready to forgive us. Because ultimately, the most valuable thing in life may not be the company or millions of dollars, but perhaps relationships that no matter how rich you are, you can't buy.
Taidy's scandal has become online entertainment. People are creating parody videos, making fun of her life before she got rich and after she fell apart. The number of views is skyrocketing every day. Even T's small food stall has become a filming location for these videos. Look, from CEO to dishwasher. Life is like a drama. Some people aren't hungry. They just want to see how pathetic someone who was once at the top looks when they fall. The online world is sometimes like a battleground, where the pain of others is exchanged for likes and laughter. That night, Taidy sat crying behind the shop. She started to avoid looking at herself in the face. She didn't dare open her phone, and she didn't want to see anyone anymore. Taidy, I want to disappear. But T sat silently beside her, before asking softly, "Do you know why people like to watch others fall?" She shook her head, before saying a sentence that pierced her heart. People like to watch others fall because it makes them feel better. A warm breeze slowly blew through the old shop, and Taidy finally understood that the world today doesn't measure people by their hearts, but by money, views, and the ability to stand above others.
T continued, "But I'm afraid of those who were once taller and then fell." Taidy clenched her fists. "I hate myself. I used to hate you too." She looked up immediately. T smiled faintly. "When you belittled me in front of others, I was very hurt." His voice was too calm, so calm it hurt to hear. "But in the end, I still wanted you to live well." T's words made Taidy freeze. She never knew that the quiet smile of her brother hid so much sorrow. He had been resentful, hurt, felt worthless, but even so, he still chose to be by her side. Taidy cried again, because she had just understood that true love isn't always beautiful like in fairy tales. It's full of wounds, disappointment, and pain that still chooses not to leave each other. And perhaps the person who loves us the most may be the one we have hurt the most as well. It had been raining heavily since evening. The thunder was so loud it made the small food stall tremble slightly. Before that, a large man walked in with a stack of documents. Taidy quickly picked them up and looked at them, her heart nearly stopping. The guarantor's name was T. "When did you use the house as collateral?" T didn't answer. The creditor sneered. "Your sister is clearly a problem." Taidy's eyes welled up with tears. "Why did you have to do this?" The small house, everything to her brother, had been used as collateral to help her. Suddenly, Taidy felt like she was standing in the middle of a freezing rain. Not because of the weather, but because she had just realized that someone had sacrificed everything without ever saying a word. After the creditors left, Taidy immediately burst into tears. She was angry, hurt, and guilty, because the one losing everything in her place was her older brother, the one she had once pushed away. "I didn't ask for this!" T sat silently for a long time before speaking of their father for the first time in years. When Dad was near death, he held my hand. Taidy froze. He said, "If one day you get lost, I will take you home." That sentence shattered Tidy's heart instantly. She finally understood that for some, the word family isn't a duty, but a promise that no matter how painful, they still choose to keep. T sat down beside her. Money runs out, but you can always earn more. But if I let you fall apart until you have no heart left to live, I'd hate myself for the rest of my life. Tidy. Brother. The rain continued to fall heavily. But inside the small house, it was warmer than anywhere else in Tidy's life. She cried like a child, weary from longing. And for the first time in her life, she didn't have to pretend to be strong anymore. Maybe true home isn't a luxurious place, but it's a place where, even if the whole world sees you as worthless, there's always someone who says to you, you can always come back.
The old man came to the shop almost every day. He liked to sit in the same corner, slowly eating his tofu soup and silently watching people walk by. No one knew who he was, but every time he spoke, his words seemed to have encompassed the entire world. One day, he asked Taidy, "Do you know what's the most expensive thing in the world?" She smiled sadly. "Probably trust." The old man chuckled softly. "Wrong." "Then what is it?" The old man shook his head. "Time wasted on the wrong people." That sentence froze her instantly. Because sometimes what hurts the most isn't betrayal, but realizing that we gave the most important moments of our lives to someone who never appreciated them. Before the old man continued, "I used to have a son." Taidy paused. He was very talented, very intelligent, very wealthy. The old man looked out of the shop window. "But on the day of my surgery, he sent his secretary to visit me instead." The old man's voice was very calm, so calm as if he had been grieving for too long to cry again. He recounted how his son had achieved great success. He had money, fame, and a large business. But on the day he lay before the operating room, his son sent his secretary to visit him instead. Taidy sat silently, because that story was so similar to her own life. The world teaches people to chase success, sometimes until we forget the people who sat and ate with us when we had nothing. His voice was flat, so flat it sounded like he'd been hurt countless times. "As for your brother," he turned to look at T, who was washing dishes in the back of the shop. "People like that are hard to find these days." Before leaving, the old man handed T investment documents worth millions of baht. It was enough to change his life instantly. But T politely pushed the documents back. He didn't hesitate. He wasn't excited. He simply replied with a plain smile, "I don't want to get so rich that I don't have time to take care of my family." The old man smiled. "Then you're richer than everyone in the city." The shop fell silent again. Taidy looked at her brother with trembling eyes, because she had just understood that the richest person in the world might not be the one with the most money, but perhaps it's the one who still has time, a heart, and loved ones waiting for them at home. A year has passed. Taidy hasn't returned to being a millionaire. No luxury car, no expensive condo. No one flocks to take pictures with her anymore. But she has something she used to miss. T, the snacks are all gone again today. Taidy, that's because the secret recipe is delicious. T, secret recipe or the shop owner is pretty? You. Every evening, the two siblings sit and eat together, laughing about little things, teasing each other like children. And for the first time in years, Taidy feels that ordinary life can be warm too.
That night, Taidy posted a short message on social media. When I had money, I had hundreds of people. When I ran out of money, I was left with only one person. And that person is worth more than all the people combined. No fancy photos, no advertisements, no false promises. Just the truth from the heart. And surprisingly, that simple post was shared hundreds of thousands of times. Not because of any drama, but because many people were tired of a world where people love each other based on social status. A world that asks first, what's wrong? Instead of asking, are you tired?
A cool breeze swept through the small shop that night. No camera flashes, no flattering voices. Just the aroma of hot rice, soft laughter, and the family still sitting there. Tea. Are you tired today? Taidy. Yes, but you're still okay, right? Taidy. Yes, because I'm not alone anymore. Taidy looked at her brother silently, before smiling the most genuinely she had in years. She had just understood that true wealth might not be having a lot of money, but perhaps it's having a home, where no matter how cruel the world is, there are still people waiting for you to come home and eat with them. After the shop closed that night, Taidy sat quietly, gazing at the sky. She asked her brother, "Brother, if one day I become rich again, are you afraid I'll change?" T laughed. People have to change. Her life had changed a lot in 1 year. From a woman who used to stand in the spotlight, she had become an ordinary person, sitting and eating in front of a small shop. But strangely enough, her heart felt much calmer than before. Perhaps happiness isn't about having more, but perhaps about wanting less. So you're not afraid? He paused to think before answering slowly. I just hope that even if the whole world is chasing money, you'll still remember the days when you had nothing, and who sat and ate with you. T's answer was very simple, yet more powerful than anything Taidy had ever heard. She fell silent. Because before, she remembered everything. Who wore what watch, who drove what kind of car, how famous anyone was. But she had forgotten the person who sat and ate with her on the days when she had no one left. The world teaches people to remember who succeeds. But in real life, perhaps it's more important to remember who is still there when we fall. That night had no grand conclusion. No one knew if the siblings' future would be prosperous. Life might still be tough. There might still be debt. There might still be days to fight on. But on that old wooden table, there were 2 plates of rice. There was soft laughter. And there were 2 people who had chosen never to leave each other again. T. Eat more. You'll get thin. Taidy. I think this is good as it is. Because ultimately, some people spend their whole lives chasing money. But some are lucky enough to find a home in someone's heart. And perhaps that might be the truest wealth in life. Concluding thoughts. Sibling love is far better than money. Because money only helps us some days. But those who truly love us will support us when we have nothing left.